to this week's Sunday sermon. Yes, Britain's favourite Sunday sermon, and it's pretty obvious what we need to talk about because the most extraordinary thing has happened. Yes, our good old friends, those judges, some of whom are not judges at all, by the way, in the European Court of Human Rights. They've made the most extraordinary ruling. Yes, in favour of some lovely ladies in Switzerland who decided to sue the Swiss government that had already legislated to get to net zero in 2050, brackets, in their own stupid foolishness, close brackets. But these ladies said they weren't doing enough, and so they sued them under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, the right to a family life. Well, that's all very nice, I'm sure. But what these judges have done is they have basically given a carte blanche to citizens and eco-zealots all over, all of the countries who are now signatories to the European Convention on Human Rights, which includes us in the United Kingdom because we still haven't left it, despite many promises from this Conservative government that we should seriously look at it, and despite the fact that, of course, it's the ECHR that is stopping us from having a effective, workable asylum policy. But I don't know, now the eco-zealots can sue all of our governments if they don't think we're going fast enough. This ruling has devastating consequences on our prosperity, on our economy, on our energy, on our wealth, on our jobs, and where we're going to end up sending our money to. Because zealot after zealot is going to sue the UK government saying we're not doing enough in order to get to net zero by 2050. I mean, it's just truly, truly extraordinary. But the good news is, I think people will wake up and realise that actually what on earth have a bunch of judges in a foreign court got to do? What's their right to tell our elected politicians who in their own wisdom have decided to go down the same net zero route by 2050, but what right do they have? I mean, they're neither qualified in law, some of them, they're not qualified in science, they haven't looked at the scientific evidence, they've just gone with what they see as the nice, cosy consensus establishment route. They have no right whatsoever to tell our elected politicians what judgments they should be making. The whole point of sovereignty, the whole point of taking back control of our laws, our borders, and our rules and our money was so that our politicians could be accountable to us, the British voters. We shouldn't tolerate this in the slightest. We should say, actually, it's another seriously good reason to leave the European Convention on Human Rights so that we're not subject to these ridiculous rulings from the European Court of Human Rights. We know the damage they're doing to our asylum policy, and now they're going to do damage to our economy. I just think the whole point of a democracy is that the voters can appoint our representatives to make decisions on our behalf. And then if they make the wrong decisions, they don't listen to the voters, they promise to do things that they then don't carry out, then we, the voters, can kick them out. But if that's not the case, if actually some overseas court with these judges in inverted commas, if they can make the rulings, they can make the determination, well then, bluntly, what's the point of democracy? What's the point of having elections in the United Kingdom if it's all going to be determined by those folk over there in Strasbourg? This has got to stop. Whilst on the one hand, it's a horrifying judgment, on the other hand, I hope it serves as a serious wake-up call. This is not a benign body focusing on human rights. Exactly the opposite. This is a deeply politically motivated body that is pursuing a centrist, globalist agenda. Maybe in the alternative, maybe some folk here in the UK should actually go to the ECHR and say that our right to a successful economy, our right to jobs, our right to prosperity is being damaged by the pursuit of net zero. And that our right under Article 8 to a happy, joyous family life is being ruined by this obsession with getting to net zero CO2 emissions. That'd be quite interesting, wouldn't it? Have another go. But you know what the answer would be? Yeah, because it doesn't suit the globalists. It doesn't suit the vested interests, making a fortune out of impoverishing the rest of us with net zero obligations. So, of course, the ECHR would rule in their favour. This is a seriously, seriously extraordinary moment. It's a wake-up call. And I hope that the British people will say, we're done with this. I've absolutely had enough. We've got to vote in or out our own politicians, and they must be accountable, held accountable to the British people. We can't hold those judges accountable. We should have nothing whatsoever to do with them. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. No ifs, no buts. And with that, enjoy your day. Here endeth Britain's favourite Sunday sermon.